Adventure in Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Pipeman. Surrender ambition to machines and beliefs and conveniences. Misguided commitments, where engagement's rewarded with dopamine.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm here with our next guest, who actually, we were going to do this last week, but I was heading to Rocklahoma, so we bumped it to post-Rocklahoma, and so let's welcome to the show, Ben from NightWraith. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. What's up, Pipeman Radio? Happy to be here.
Nice. So now, here's my first question.
Yeah.
How many press people that do interviews fuck up pronouncing your band name?
Not too many. I feel like phonetically, it's not too hard to pronounce. You know, there's a lot of like black metal bands out there that have like names in different languages, or you know, that hasn't been a common issue.
Because it's not, unless you're familiar with The Witcher, you're not really familiar with that.
Yeah.
So
true.
I could see people saying NightWraith because that's what they would be used to in their brain, you know?
Yeah, wrath is probably a more common word than wraith. I feel like wraith is sort of like a made up term almost. Yeah.
Totally.
Specific to The Witcher.
Totally. So tell us a little bit about your band, because you've evolved over the years.
Yeah.
You know, and really, that's one thing I love that I know about you guys evolving. Is like, I don't think people really realize that musicians want to evolve. They don't want to be the same band you saw when they were playing their first shows. Although there's fans, self-included back in the 80s, that you want them to only play.
Yeah, you long for the glory days, you know? Yeah.
Exactly. But to an artist, it's kind of like when you think you weren't even that good a lot of times, and you haven't even really figured out where you wanted to be. You kind of grow album after album. And I think you finally got there with this new album coming out on the 13th to where you really want the band to be as far as musically, and, you know, really fine-tuned it. Am I right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. You know, we've been a band for 8 years now, and this is our third album. And it takes a long time to really like kind of like find your identity and like find your sound. And like I'm happy with all of our recorded material, but this record in particular, we finally like found what I think we always envisioned ourselves sounding like and presenting ourselves like. We finally like kind of achieved that and have like a very just like defined sound on this.
I love it. And you know, one thing, I saw a quote from you actually that I really dug. Okay, especially again coming from the beginning, like the beginning of death metal and pretty much most metal. You know, I am from those days where it's like, you have to be faster and heavier, and every band had to be faster and heavier. And for us, it was like that. And it's so funny, too, because my best bro since like 13 years old, actually, unfortunately, he passed last September, but his birthday is the day that you're releasing the album.
Oh, Friday the 13th?
Yeah. So
cheers to him.
Right? And but I remember a couple of years ago, we were like riding down the road, playing some music. He's like, I think it was Venom I was playing. He's like, wasn't this faster back then? I'm like, we thought it was, but then there's music today that makes that look slow.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
right? You know, it's like what you think is faster, what you think is heavier. Like to us back then, Venom was like, oh my God, that's the fastest, heaviest stuff there is.
Or like when Ride the Lightning came out, that was like the most intense, like distorted guitar tone anyone had ever heard up until then.
Now, you want to hear something funny since you brought that up. So I'm one of those first 25 fans of Metallica, because I went to the first show that we hated when the Black album came out. We're like posers, sellouts.
Yeah.
But it's funny, when Ride the Lightning came out, we all said, if you took Fight Fire with Fire and took it off of Ride the Lightning and put it on Kill 'Em All, and took Jump in the Fire and put it on Ride the Lightning, Kill 'Em All was the most perfect metal album ever in history.
Yeah.
That's what we said then.
Yeah, totally.
Interesting, right?
Yeah. Man, I wish our guitar player Igor was here, because he's an older dude and he grew up through all that as well. I think you'd have a lot in common with that. We've talked about the Black album specifically, and he has some interesting opinions on it too. But they're mixed. They're like good. And he's like, the production is insane, but yeah, everyone was just kind of bummed that, you know, they thought it was like kind of a sellout record. But again, back to your earlier point, that's what bands want to do. As an artist, you want to evolve, and you know, how boring would it be if you just made Ride the Lightning over and over again? You know,
no doubt. And you know, it's actually rather funny, because I remember watching Kirk on that metal show ranking all the Metallica albums, and he ranked my favorite as his least favorite,
right?
And that's Kill 'Em All.
Yeah,
you know, but even James, he says, I don't get it. Like, you know, they play Seek and Destroy at the San Jose Shark games, and he's like, why they use my original version? I didn't even know how to sing. I sucked. You know, I'd rather they play an updated version when I learn how to sing.
Yeah.
You know,
that's so
and
funny.
that says it all right there, because I loved his voice back then. He didn't really love his voice. And I even like, okay, so Bring Me the Horizon got a lot of flack over the past few years of the shit they're putting out. And Ollie said in an interview, and it was brilliant, he's like, why do I want to write the same song over and over again?
Yeah, you know.
So it would be boring for an artist, you know?
Now, if you're at a certain level, you probably have to do some type of obligation to your fan base, but we're nowhere near that level. So we feel like we can kind of do whatever we want musically. So it's really fun.
And I think it's pretty cool that in this album, you're bringing in stuff like film score elements and synthesizer tones and stuff like that. The film score really got me, because it made me think immediately of Danny Elfman.
Yeah. Totally. We love all those composers. We kind of like compare our style more to like John Carpenter films and stuff, because we love like the 80s, like sci-fi and horror, but like all the synthesizer tones that you'll hear in those films. We tried to kind of like simulate that tone in what we did with our new album Divergence.
And you know, it's funny, I think Black Sabbath, a lot of their music would be perfect for film scores.
Yeah, right.
You know, so it just makes sense to me, 100%.
Or to bring film score into heavy metal, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Because like some black metal bands do that, like the bigger like symphonic black metal bands will record with like a Philharmonic or something and get a lot of like make it sound like a huge production, and that's kind of film scorey too.
Yeah, it is.
But we really just love that like 80s like horror vibe, you know?
Oh yeah.
So that was really fun to kind of like bring it and try to write like with that in mind.
Absolutely. And I also like the fact, okay, that from one of your quotes is about the fact of, you know, not picking a genre right from the beginning. Like, to me, I hate genres. Genres are for the record labels. They're not for all of us.
Yeah.
You know? And I think it boxes an artist in.
Yeah.
You know, and I come from the gatekeeping days of like, oh, you can't listen to that kind of metal. You can only listen to this kind of metal. And frankly, it's stupid. Just listen to what you like, play what you like. You know, there shouldn't be any rules. There shouldn't be any genre borders. That's why I call it genre border. Like
when you said that, I literally like pictured a box in my mind.
Right? Exactly. And so even the fact of, okay, so I have a fun story for you and a trivia question for you. So I know also you kind of like have some influence from bands like Blue Oyster Cult. Okay. Which not many metal bands would say, but I think it's not a far stretch, number one. But here's my trivia question first, then the story. What is Blue Oyster Cult's original band name?
Oh God, I knew this at one point, but it's been a long day at work, and I'm a little fried at the moment, and I have no idea.
Okay, so check it out. One day I was in my 20s, and there was this place in New Jersey. I lived in New Jersey, and there was a place called Artistry Playpen. And bands would play there all the time. So one night I'm driving by, and on the marquee, there's this band playing. I'm like, all right, I'll go check it out. You know, it's just a little dive club. And I walk in, and there's this band playing a song that's really familiar to me. And then I look, and I'm like, holy shit, it's Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh,
and they were performing under their name. That was their original name, but that's what they used when they would play in clubs before going on tour. You know how a lot of bands will play a club before they go on tour to warm up, and
like hash out like material, maybe
fake name or something like that. Yeah. So their original name, which is what was up on the marquee, Soft White Underbelly.
Yes, that's right, Soft White Underbelly. Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So there you have it. So that's I figured awesome. I'd share that with you, and and I love doing trivia questions because sometimes stuff like that, people are like, "Oh shit, what is that?"
Oh,
so that brings me to something else. What's the worst interview question you've ever had?
Oh, I never really get like bad interview questions, but sometimes they can be a little like typical, you know, like. Yeah, I'm in the middle of a PR cycle now, and everyone always asks about like your opinion on the current state of the music industry, which I don't mind talking about ever, but that's something that's just like very commonly asked, you know. God, what else? Like, you know, just like I guess I don't like general questions where you can tell it was like from a template, and it's just like you ask this to every band, and it's just like the most basic shit.
I think especially in metal, because like I sit there at these festivals doing press, and I listen to some of my other press people around me, and I'm like, man, if I were the band, I'd want to slit my throat, because it's like they have the scripted interview, and it's metal. You should, if you are a metalhead, you don't need a script.
Yeah. And not even just a metalhead. I'm like, just talk to me like a person. Just like ask me like human questions, because we're both human beings, you know? Like that's kind of how I feel. I want to, just answer these like generic like band questions.
And why would you ask the same question that's been asked 10 million times, or questions that people already know? The whole point of an interview is to find out others.
Yeah, ask me like something interesting, and I will give you an interesting response.
Exactly. Yeah. So that brings me to, okay, so you survive. Your band survived through that lockdown of COVID.
Yeah.
During that period of time, music was out of the life somewhat, but mostly. Did you find some other passion that you had that you didn't know you had because you were so busy being on the musician hamster wheel?
Not really. I just like doubled down on music basically. So I pretty much used that time to kind of like learn how to start like recording and using demos at home. So I learned Pro Tools, and I basically like I wrote and demoed our second album, and then once restrictions kind of like lifted, then we all started meeting up and we like learned it and then like actually made the record. So I pretty much spent the whole pandemic with my wife and dogs, which was awesome. A lot of time together. but yeah, I just like wrote an album and like demoed the whole thing and then like presented it to the band. And if I didn't do that, I feel like we might have fizzled out like so many bands did. But that was kind of like it was just like a little like jump start on the band almost. It like injected some like fresh life into us. I also I started getting into like covering songs, but kind of like transforming them into my own style and, you know, changing the key, like taking it from like a major scale to a minor, doing stuff like that. But I was covering like 90s rock songs, like Smashing Pumpkin songs and stuff. And I like recorded them and like released them. And so that was kind of my project during the whole pandemic. I didn't really do anything new. I made a few puzzles and read a few books like everyone else.
But to me, you did do something new. And the reason I say that is that hamster wheel I was talking about. Like in the music business these days, it's like you're so on a show. Okay, give us some music. Okay, we got to write it on the tour bus. It's like you have no time to think. You don't even have time to think of, is this where I want my band going? And I think that's one of the big benefits of that lockdown. And I think it gave a lot of artists a chance to jump off the hamster wheel and really figure out what they wanted to do and experiment. Like you couldn't experiment before. Now you can, like what you were doing. Perfect example. That was
it's good, like introspection.
Yeah.
And
and
that was the one gift
creativity.
the pandemic offered us.
Right. And you got new creativity and new life. I think that once we came back, I think a lot of artists had new life. There's a lot of artists I know that they were so burnt out by the time that lockdown happened that after lockdown, they had their renewed passion for music.
Yeah. Which is awesome. And I think the pandemic did that in a lot of areas, not just music, but it just it helped everyone just kind of like pause for a bit and kind of like be present in the moment and just kind of like slow down and just like, you know, take stock of like, you know, the things that are actually important in life, right?
Speaking of important, forget all this other bullshit. Tell me about your dogs.
Oh, my dogs are awesome. I have a 9-year-old black lab. Her name's Molly. And then I've got a 7-year-old mutt. I don't really know what she is. Her name's Mara. Our vet was like, you could do a DNA test, but it'll just come back with like everything. So like,
right. It's like kind of like doing 23andMe.
Yeah.
You find out that you're just a mutt. That's all.
But they're the best. And it was so nice having them around like during the pandemic. Cause I feel like we would have just gone a little extra crazy, but they kind of helped like keep us grounded a bit more. And
it's cool too. Cause like you had more time with them because you didn't have to be out on the road doing shows.
Oh, they loved it. They got spoiled. And now when I leave the house for like 4 hours, they're mad at me when I come home.
I believe that. I was going to say spoiled. They're probably like, now where are you going? You're not supposed to go anywhere.
I love animals, man.
You know what? They're a lot better than humans nowadays.
There's just an innocence to them, you know?
No doubt. And a loyalty. See, I'm big on loyalty, and there's
unconditional.
There's nothing like a dog loyalty.
Oh, man. Yeah. It's the best.
Unbelievable.
The world can be falling apart around you, and you just have this like creature that just like loves you all the way, no matter what.
No doubt. So near where I live, I'm in South Florida, and I'm a surfer, and they have a surf competition every year here, and it's not humans surfing, it's dogs.
Oh, I've seen videos like that. I love it.
Is the coolest shit ever, man. Like, it's totally entertaining. I'd like to see almost maybe a dog band. That would be kind of cool.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that could be a tough one to pull off.
Right? Totally, 100%.
Unless like the Captured by Robots guy like just made some like dog robots to play.
There you go. So the album drops on the 13th.
Yeah, Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I love that. Did you plan that ahead of time? Because that's what I would do.
Yeah. The PR company kind of came up with that date, but I was like, oh, that's perfect. I love it.
And since I'm old school, I'm big into artwork on an album, and yours is badass.
Oh, cool. I'm so glad you think so. I gotta give a shout out to the artist Jeff Kopp. He's a friend of mine. He's a tattoo artist here in Denver, Colorado, and he just really knocked it out of the park.
So now anybody listening or watching this from that area needs to go and get a tattoo of the album cover.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Maybe that should be like a promo you guys do.
Yeah, call to action. Yeah, get a NightWraith tattoo, and get free shows for life or something.
There you go. I love it. Well, you guys are badass. You rock. Tell everybody how they can reach out to you on the web, on socials, how they can get the new album, check out tour dates, check out your merch, all that good stuff. Yeah,
totally. NightWraithBand.com. You can follow us on Instagram. It's NightWraith Band is our Instagram handle and our Facebook handle. We're on Bandcamp. We're on Spotify. Check us out. Give us a follow. We're on YouTube. We just released a couple new music videos from the album that came out really good. We got some shows coming up to support the album. But we really just want people to hear it. And, we made it for the enjoyment of everyone, and we just really hope people enjoyed these pieces of music that we came up with.
Well, I know I enjoyed it, and I'm sure they will too.
Hell yeah, man.
And thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.